Um, and Jonathan's on our team as well. So if there's technical questions, he can answer them.
You can chime in. Okay, perfect. Okay, so so I'm trying to. I saw the presentation, but I had some other things going on at the same time, so I don't know if I got the whole thing. But is this something that that you guys are creating for your own purposes, or is this something that can be reused in other projects?
Very much the latter. I mean, we built it. It's open source, so you can grab the whole. There's two repos. There's a back end and a front end, and basically everything, the service that we've spun up at skillsgraph.learnershape.com, the whole service is in these two repos, except our logos, basically. So it could be used by anybody else, or the back end, which is the bit that creates credentials on skills credentials on blockchain, that can be used by itself. And Jonathan could speak some more to that. He designed the API on it. Okay,
perfect. So I'm with a project that got funded in Fund 8. That's it's all about water quality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a decentralized water quality platform. And we wanted to use something like what you have to do two things. One is to, distribute credentials for people for things like, water testers. And the other thing is to distribute credentials for things like clean water. So if a school, for example, has their water tested and everything comes out fine, that we could give them a DID credential, for that. Is this something that you see that we could use your project to be able to do something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was designed for skills credentials, but there's no reason why it couldn't be used for other kind of credentials, like, the school has water, clean water. Basically, you can do. It's a pretty simple one now. You can describe any kind of general credential, and then to have it, they would have to prove in our simple implementation that they've got a credential issued by the email address associated with the issuing entity. We're going to build a more advanced version, assuming we get funded in Fund 9, that will tie it to other identities, portable DIDs, Telegram IDs, Discord IDs, things like that.
Perfect. Yeah, so we see the skills part as very relevant, because one of the things that we're doing is building a community of water quality monitors. And some of these folks will be technical in nature, be able to use certain types of equipment like microplastic, equipment that can detect microplastics in water, or perform more comprehensive water tests. So, we'd like to, use something like this to show that, yeah, this person is a, quote unquote certified water quality, person with the skills to be able to, do these kinds of tests.
Yep. Well, you can, and if you want to use our platform, there would be two ways to do it. One is you're free to use the platform, the platform that we have, the instance we've spun up, which sits on AWS, and it's free to use. And you could create your own account and issue credentials through that, or you could spin up your own instance. And it's explained in the GitHub repos how to do that.
Okay, perfect.
And you'd have to put it somewhere, AWS like we do, or something like that.
Yeah, that's completely in line with where we're going. Part of our project, we've already created a web service that mints NFTs. And that was built using a lot of the Cardano Sharp technology, and it also runs on AWS. And we have a whole repo that from start to finish will spin up the AWS resources and everything in order to do that. Create the the wallets, put them in AWS. The part that keeps the secrets and everything like that. So I'm really excited to hear that you guys are running on AWS.
Okay, well, it should be, we've tried to make it self-service. Jonathan, I don't know if the goal is, we're pretty busy and we have other jobs as well. So we try to make it easy, but if you have questions, we really, we're happy to talk to you and, for figuring it out.
Okay, perfect. And can you share the link to the repo again?
Yes. Let me see the best way to do it. You know what? I think maybe what I will share is our Gitbook documentation, because that both tells you, it's got links to the repo in it, and it tells you how the service works.
Awesome.
Which I'm going to do. I'll put it in the chat. Oops, this is not. How do I send it? I'll share it to just you, Nick. So you.
Okay, perfect. Maury, thank you so much, and Jonathan, thank you. I really appreciate your guys' time this morning.
Yep.
Maury, can I hop in?
Yeah, absolutely.
So a couple things. One is that I'm working on a couple state level projects in the U.S. that have to deal with VCs and building repositories based on the set of standardized skills for students in higher education, and also that are also getting their training for privatized industry and OTJ, as well as internships and other kinds of things as well. One of the things that we've seen is that skill alignment is brutally difficult, especially if you're looking for a machine readable way to push to a CLR, a comparative learner record, or something like that, something that is consumable by either another institution or by employers. Since you're in this space, are you tying your skills to any rich skill descriptors or any case framework? Like what skills that you identify, how are they machine readable by other external components?
Interesting. I saw Jonathan smiling as you asked the question, because LearnerShape is new to the blockchain space, but the company is about 3 years old, and most of what we've focused on has been skills, figuring out how to manage skills under different taxonomies. There are so many different taxonomies out there. And so we have AI-based methods for comparing skills based upon not needing to fit into a specific taxonomy to compare skills to content or to a job or something like that. That doesn't quite answer your question, because for it to be machine readable, it has to be defined somehow. But the short answer is it could be a much longer discussion, but the short answer is we've thought a lot about how you define skills in a way that you can compare skills that are a little bit different, but that are described differently and are a little bit similar, or that are actually similar. And we eventually intend to link up the blockchain piece, the VC piece, with skills recommendation. That's a few steps down the road.
Where are you guys out of?
We're based in London, in the UK.
In London. Okay, in the UK. Yeah. If you'd be interested, I can plug you in on the US side of the house to these conversations that are happening on a national level, right? And there's 3 basic repositories or indexes from which skill bases are being drawn, right? And alignment to those means that then you can build a comprehensive learner record, or again, you can push their skill into a repository that can be, of course, machine readable, but beyond that an employer can go in and identify a person based on a set of skills and or outcomes. Disrupting the employment market. if you're interested in having those conversations, because I mean, I know that we've talked to some folks in Australia and are working towards a common protocols. Again, whether they be rich skill descriptors or some CTDL language that allows for transferability of this information across different sectors. But also, in addition to that, being able to park them in a repository, these VCs in a repository increases their utility. Beyond simply just having a wallet full of credentials that you have to express manually each time to a certain individual in order for them to see that you have the credential itself.
So you're saying be able to compare a standard credential to what's in the repository automatically?
Basically, yeah. But then, yes, in terms of being able to pull the skill from the repository of skills, but also to be able to push your VC to a repository, to be able to push it to, I know that you had mentioned, being able to tie to employers, being able to push to Handshake, to be able to push to, LinkedIn, or to be able to push to another platform that allows for employable searching or looking for candidates, but also ensures that the credentials are validated and that they're also recognized by industry. Again, I can't speak for what's happening overseas, but over here, we've got a lot of confusion in the space, and employers are somewhat not resistant, but hesitant to step into the VC world because there's not a common language, there's not a common interface, there's not common thing. Everything looks different when it comes to them as a VC.
Yeah, well, look, we've seen the same thing about confusion among skills taxonomies and it being very hard to compare things. We haven't dove into that issue as much in the VC, the SSI world, and I would love to, be added to conversations about that from the States. You may hear from my accent that I'm American originally, so I can speak the same language, I suppose.
Yeah, that's great. So those conversations are in New Hampshire and Arkansas, and then also in Arizona, just so you know. So I'd love to be able to connect you with some folks. Again, if you'd be willing to do that. So the second question, and I don't want to occupy all of your time, right? But my second question is that in order to, I've got a proposal out there. We have a proposal out there that essentially changes the way that validation protocols happen. And I'd love for you to take a look at it to see how it fits into your existing ecosystem. And so it's under the Carta shift, and it has to do with smart contracts, CMART. Credential based smart contracts that are essentially a change in the validation protocols. We feel like that it has a lot of promise to change the balance of how VCs are issued and consumed, because it's a pretty heavily imbalanced system right now, pretty heavy on the issuer side of the house, and the burden in terms of costs and supporting the infrastructure. And we feel like that a change in the balance would actually increase utilization. So if you look at that and you're interested, then reach out, and happy to share more about some of the basic architecture that goes into this solution. Or I can share it with you privately if you like.
Can you just put a link to it? I mean, the easiest for me, so I have it, would be to put it, I'm at Maury Shank on Telegram. If you send me the link to the proposal, I'll have a look.
Okay, sounds good. I'll also drop it in the chat.
Okay, super.
Appreciate your work.
Thanks, Greg. Sounds like we'll have some stuff to talk about.
Absolutely.
So welcome, Jane. Is it Tegenia, or I'm probably mispronouncing your name, but
yeah.
you were here.
Jane Ginn.
Hi, Jane. I know I saw, and there's one other person here who hadn't spoken Tegenia. Jane Ginn is a little easier to pronounce. Well, Jane, can we? Did you want to add to the conversation here? We're here really to answer questions about LearnerShape SkillsGraph.
Yeah, no, I sat in on the town hall and watched your demonstration and was interested in what you're doing and where you're going with it. I just wanted to engage with you. I'm in the cybersecurity space, and I have a proposal in Fund 9 in the cross-chain collaboration. The proposal is to stand up a threat intelligence platform for the Cardano Catalyst community. Are you familiar with the threat intel platform tooling?
I'm not. I'm familiar with threat intel platforms generally, but not that one. You know, go ahead.
The one I'm proposing is OpenCTI, an open source threat intel platform. But because what you're doing is really a precursor to the work that I'm doing, I just wanted to stop in here and listen to the dialogue.
Sure. Well, I mean, Andrew had some good questions, and Nick before. You know, for your proposal, well, I guess our basic pitch is we're trying to get people using our platform. It's free to use at skillsgraph.learnershape.com if you want to you know, record credentials. It's a simple version initially, although we think you can do a fair amount with the simple version. And it's also available for people who want to run their own instance of it on it's open source, and you can run your own instance, which requires a bit more because you got to have a server to put it on. But it's free to do that too. One other suggestion I'd have for you is another thing I've been doing. My main efforts in the Cardano community, the Catalyst community, have been for this proposal, but I also did a small proposal on crypto regulation surveillance and linked up with a bigger effort called DLT 360, which is a threat intelligence. It's sort of a blockchain threat intelligence platform. You might want to reach out to them to see whether there's some synergies there. That's Heinz Gassner is the guy who runs DLT 360, and he might be interested in your efforts.
Is that Heinz, H-I-N-E-S, Heinz?
H-E-I-N-Z, or Z, as I used to call it when I lived in the US.
Oh, that's good to know about.
And Gassner is G-A-S-S-N-E-R.
I'll check it out.
Cool.
Okay, and I will register for your site and
yeah, check it out. Play with it. Yeah, you can create your own skills. You can ask people to authenticate. Jonathan, do we have a way to track usage of this? Are we going to know how many people are actually using the site? Yeah, I think you're muted, or your microphone isn't working. Maybe you can give a thumbs up if we can track usage. Yeah, good. So we'll see. Basically, we're excited about this. It's a very simple proof of concept. And when we initially envisioned it, I don't think we thought we were going to actually release it as a service at this stage. But we built this really simple proof of concept that turns out a few simple things can be pretty effective. So we're really interested to hear what people think of it. We're going to add functions over time, but we think it's useful as it is now.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Well, great to meet you. Okay.
As I try to pull up the webpage, it's not pulling it up. But perhaps I'm just putting it in wrong.
Let's see. It should be the service itself, or the
yes. Yeah, the service itself.
It's working for me. So it's SkillsGraph. I'll put it in the chat here. I'll just do it to everybody. And it seems to be up and working. There's also...
Got it. Thank you.
And if you log in, you'll get documentation for it as well, which is on Gitbook, but that's that's the Git book documentation, which tells you how to use it, where the GitHub repos are, a bit of the vision.
Great, thanks for sharing it. Happy to play around with it.
Okay, yeah, and we'd love to, well, love to hear the connections about, you know, the various U.S. state efforts you're talking about, and any comments you have on the service. We're in early days and would love to hear what people think.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Y'all have a great afternoon.
Yes. Well, I don't know if there's any other comments. If not, I may close the room, and but we're open to hear from people about, you know, what you think, what we should do with this service, etc. Right. Have a great evening, everybody.